Well, greetings, my friends. It's good to be with you again, and I'm excited to lead you through this introduction to advanced research and writing. We have some pretty ambitious goals in this course, and so the reason to share this presentation with you is to help you get started. So here are the 5 things that we're going to complete during this course. First of all, we're going to help you begin your research and writing on a graduate thesis, something required for you and something that I think we can do in a pretty exciting way. During the course, you're going to complete the City Human Subject Training in preparation for research. TCM requires that you complete this. It will take about a week that we're going to allow for you to take it online. And then that will make it possible for you to do whatever kind of research that you choose. During the course, we're going to complete chapters 1 and 2 of your thesis. This will be the introduction to your thesis, where you make the case for your study, and the literature review, where you consider what's already been written and studied about your topic. We're going to outline chapter 3. We're not going to write it, but we're going to outline it in some detail to talk about and describe the methodology you're going to use for your research. Then last of all, at the end of the course, you're going to submit a research proposal using what we did in chapter 3, in the outline of chapter 3, to make a proposal to the TCM Institutional Research Board. And this presentation is required for you to take the next step in your research and to be assigned a thesis, a supervisor or mentor. What you need to do right now, what you need to start doing right away. First of all, consider the options for a research project and choose one topic. Is there something that's been particularly interesting to you that you would like to study and research further? You need to make that topic as specific as possible, because the more narrow the topic, the easier it will be for you to research and study the issues involved. You need to begin a reference file. As soon as you start looking up articles and books and other sources related to your topic, you need to start putting those in something like Zotero, which is available to you for free at zotero.org. I would encourage you to immediately start that. Even for books or articles that you don't use, you want to get those noted so that you have all the information to put together your bibliography and citations, those kind of things. There is a very easy to read book, 85 pages long, called A Concise Guide to Writing a Thesis or Dissertation. That book is available electronically at the TCM library. I want you to read that right away. Now, that's listed to read in the first week of the course, but the sooner you read that book, the better, because it will introduce you to the things you need to do and the chapters that you're going to write in your thesis. And then last of all, and you've heard this from me before, you need to become very familiar with the TCM writing guide. Now, I need to explain to you that guide is in the process of being revised into a more helpful tool. But in the meantime, you need to know what it says about citations and references and those kind of things. So find that guide. I think it's available on the TCM website, and start reading it, become very familiar with it. There are 3 kinds of research projects that you can do. We've talked about some of this earlier. Quantitative researches explain or predict a phenomena or behavior using experimental and statistical analysis. I'll illustrate that in the next slide, but this has to do with studying people and their reactions. You're not interviewing people, you're asking them specific questions to react in certain ways to explain what may be happening in a certain group of people, or that you want to find out what's happening among this group of people. A qualitative study interprets or helps understand a phenomena or behavior that's actually going on. Hey, I see this happening in this organization. I see this happening in this group of people. Now, why is that happening? and I'm going to study that through observing them or interacting with them, interviewing them, doing a case study, that kind of research. And that one probably is the easier one to do in our setting than quantitative research. But these two are not the only options. There is a theological, this would be a topical research study on a theology study or an exegetical from Scripture or from a topic that has to do with church work and ministry, might have to do with a biblical doctrine kind of issue that relates in your setting, but it's something that you would dig into and study deeper, not necessarily quantitative or qualitative. It might have some human element in it, but we would know more about that as your research plan develops. So here's some examples of these research topics. A quantitative study might be to compare the goals of Christian school graduates with those who did not go to Christian school. In this case, you would do some blind surveys. You would contact a Christian school, get a number of graduates, and get permission to contact them and to ask them specific questions that would not describe who they are or where they are, but more about their attitudes and their outlooks because they've been to a Christian school. And you would find another group of students to compare who have not gone to Christian school and ask them the very same questions. Then you would statistically analyze their answers. A qualitative study might be to identify key factors for a successful church plant in a place like Kenya, maybe in Nairobi versus the country of out in the country of Kenya. It maybe how does a church plant start? What are the essential things in getting them started in that setting? That would be a qualitative study where you would actually go interview people, maybe observe what is being done in a new church. Maybe you find out here's the history of a new church, and we would use this to explain what the key factors are for a church plant. Then a theological or biblical study might be something like, how are Jesus's parables understood in non-Eastern cultures? For example, here in the States, many people are not farmers anymore, and yet many of Jesus's parables had to do with farming and working with seeds and soil and those kind of things. Well, how do those studies relate? That would involve an exegetical study of the scripture of Jesus' teaching about parables and a cultural study about, okay, here's someone who's heard that parable. What did they understand about it? That would involve maybe some qualitative research, might involve some quantitative research, but it would be primarily a theological or biblical study. Okay, in the next 3 or 4 months, we have a lot of work to do. The course will begin on May 2nd. And so you're used to that. You know, it will open on May 2nd, and all of the information will be available to you at that point. By the end of May, we will have finished Chapter 1. That's the introduction to your study, why you're doing the study. You're going to define some terms about your study to help the reader of your thesis understand, why am I doing this? And what are the details related to doing this study? By the end of June, on June 25th, we will have finished Chapter 2. Chapter 2 will be all of your literature review. It should include articles, books, perhaps there's other documents or other resources that you find related to your topic. You're going to review all of that, write that up in a chapter that may be 15 to 20 pages long. But we're going to do that by the end of June. Then by the end of the online course, July 23rd, you will have outlined Chapter 3, which is your study process, your research process, and write a proposal using a form that we will give you that will be submitted to TCM's IRB. And then, of course, in August, Lord willing, I'll be there to talk with you and visit with you. We can talk about what you've studied, the topics you've chosen, and just how we're going to approach things from there. So I look forward to this. I just fell in love with Kenya when I was there early last winter, and look forward to seeing you again. God bless, and we'll see you soon.